Susie Jones, and I'm with Utah State, and I'm a horticulture specialist.
Yeah. So
we're happy to be here.
We are really happy to be here with you. So we are going to kind of go through how to plant your containers, because it is that time of year. Even though it is raining cats and dogs right now.
Do we want to show how rainy it is?
You can show how rainy it is.
Bad.
It is so rainy.
I don't know if you guys, okay, you can't really see on camera,
Okay,
but it is
so rainy.
That's why we're on a covered porch, being protected with our coats
Yeah.
on.
We're pretending it's sunny.
We are, and we're going to plant sunny containers and a shady container. We're just plant a sunny container for you so that you can feel like it's sunny, and maybe it will warm Susie up, because I think she's pretty cold.
It is cold. It's freezing.
It's freezing.
It's all right. We'll be okay.
We have coats.
We do.
All right, so let's get going on this. So Susie, when we plant our containers, and I know you're an expert at this because you've been doing herbaceous plants and ornamentals forever.
For a long time.
Very, very good. So if you don't know about Susie, she has helped with the Ogden Botanical Gardens for years and has been one of the lead people up there, and their gardens are absolutely beautiful. So she knows all about this. So when we plant this, when we're going to put this together, first thing we need to do is start with a container.
So one of the really important things you need to make sure you do, or you have, when you buy a container, make sure that you have holes in the bottom. And if it doesn't have holes, drainage holes, then make sure that you drill holes in them. And I noticed that we just purchased some at Costco not too long ago, and it showed you where to drill the holes. But anyway, just make sure that you have those drainage holes, because that's really important so that your plants don't die and get rotted.
I've noticed that too, Susie, where the pot will have a spot for holes, but they're not punched through. So to make sure that
it's a do-it-yourself.
It's a do-it-yourself, and you have to make sure you have those drainage holes, or else you'll run into problems. So.
Okay, so worst case scenario, what happens if you don't have drainage holes?
You end up with really good smelling soil. No, it smells horrible. It smells like rotted soil, and that's because the roots are rotting, because we're not exchanging gases. So like how leaves exchange gases, roots have to do the same thing. So they have to have this moment of drainage to get air down by those roots. And I totally forgot to do this. I have been really bad lately. I forget to introduce Marta every single time, and I apologize so much. So Marta Nielsen is with us for marketing. So
voice behind the camera.
Voice behind the camera. So we're so glad that she's here freezing with us.
We do have a few people tuned in. If you'll give us a hello, let us know where you're watching from, and if you've planted your porch plants yet. Yes or no?
Yeah.
And if you have questions, let us know. So we would love to help answer some questions today. So give us a thumbs up. Tell us where you're from, and we'd love to give you a shout out too. So we've got this fabulous container. We have drainage holes.
Okay.
What do we do next?
So the next thing that you'll want to make sure you do is get a really nice soilless potting mix. One of the things you want to make sure that you have is light and loose, and has perlite, has different things. Vermiculite has that it's light and fluffy and good stuff. One of the things that you need to remember though with the potting mix and these kinds of things is that it doesn't have any nutrients in it. So fertilizer is a really important part of planting in containers, and we'll talk about fertilizer.
We have some fertilizer here. So now why can't I just go scoop up soil out of my yard and put it in my container?
Good question.
That's a question that I get a lot.
Well, that's a good question. So one of the things is it's going to be really heavy, and it's going to be well,
the roots can't grow down through it very well.
Right. So you need something that's going to have a lot of air pockets. You just want something light and that's
light and fluffy, easy to grow in, easy to get moisture to be retained in certain areas and to drain through in other areas.
Here's another question.
Okay.
What if you've got a pot that you planted last year that has potting mix from last year?
That is a really good
that
question.
soil, or do you have to? What do you do with that?
So I say to at least replace half of the soil, that top half. So a lot of the times with a container this size, the roots will get down there, but they may not get all the way to the bottom, and they're going to take the nutrients out of the top portion where the majority of the roots are first. So scoop out the top, add another bag of soil to it, mix it up really well, and then definitely add fertilizer. And because soilless potting mixes don't have nutrition in them usually, sometimes you can get potting mixes with with nutrition added to them. But you'll want to look at your potting mix. So like I've just got, where's our bag? Right here. I just have a bag of soil with nothing on it. So I'm going to assume that we have no fertilizer in here. So we're going to get what we call a complete fertilizer. So a complete fertilizer, you will notice, On the bag, there's 3 numbers. The first one is nitrogen, second one is phosphorus, and the third one is potassium. So a complete fertilizer will have, all 3 of those numbers will have a number on it. So it won't say a 0 anymore. It will say 12, 12, 12, 16, 16, 16, something like that. So, and the first one, nitrogen, is for leaf growth. Phosphorus supports blooming and fruit growth, and then the potassium supports kind of all around, roots down, all around kind of thing. So we're gonna add some of this.
Yep.
How much do I add?
I would just take a little scoop and just kind of sprinkle it around.
Do you mix it in or just
We're gonna mix it in.
So yeah, when you fill your pot, when you first fill your pot, you're gonna do it about 3/4 of the way full, and then just put some of the fertilizer on the top, and then just kind of mix that in lightly.
Mix it just a little bit.
Just
And
get it ready.
I think maybe you used this pot last year.
I did replace the top.
She did replace the top part of
But
the
then it's
soil.
been sitting on my porch for the last couple of days, and I have a lot of trees. So,
I just
yeah.
gave away all your secrets.
No, but that soil looks really loose.
It does.
It looks
It looks good. It looks good. It doesn't look depleted. Sometimes it will get this really kind of light, crusty look and feel to it, and that's when I know it's really depleted. So, yeah. So we're gonna plant this. After we've got this kind of mixed in, we're gonna start planting.
Yeah.
And you're gonna show us how to plant for sun.
For sun. Yep.
Okay. So Susie's gonna step around, and we're gonna talk to you specifically about this thriller, filler, and spiller technique that we've used. So I'm gonna move these plants over here so Susie can see what she wants.
Okay, Karen says hi.
Hi Karen, how are you?
Karen, what are you planting this year?
We would love to know. So when we pick out plants, so this thriller idea,
Okay.
thriller, filler, spiller, and it's not the song and the dance. So Susie
We've
was
already done
dancing
that.
for
We've
us
already
earlier.
done the thriller song. But so what you want to do is you want to have these 3 elements, and that's a really successful recipe for making your pots beautiful. So thriller is something that's going to be tall. It's going to be a focal point, and it really gives you a lot of interest. So you're going to have that aspect. And today I've chosen a Heuchera, and this is a Coral Bells, and I love this dark color. This one's called Midnight Rose, and it's just really pretty. It's just a fun dark foliage, and
The foliage is actually kind of very good.
yeah, and
which
it
is
has
really
a little, it
beautiful.
has some pink spots on it, and it's just a really fun one. Now this is a perennial, so the really
Can we
cool
get
thing
that
about
close?
container gardening is that you can do containers. You can do it with perennials, you can do it with annuals, you can do it with herbs, you can use all kinds of things, or you can mix them all.
I like
And-
to mix.
Yeah, which I do too.
Because, so with the perennials, I found that I don't get season-long color. So if I will have a perennial kind of as, like foliage,
Mhm.
kind of that kind of focal point, then I can put in other things that give me that color
Yeah.
throughout the whole season.
Yep, that's right.
So-
I'm gonna place these first so I can make sure that I've got all of the textures and colors that I want. So another thing you want to remember also is that you want to have, as we place these, you want to make sure that you have your plants and it's nice and full but not too crowded, because they are going to grow and you don't want it to be too full that it's crowded. So we're going to put this toward the back. Now, and where I'm going to place this is kind of toward the back of it's on my porch, and so it's not going to be viewed from all the way around. So I'm not going to place this in the center like some people might. I'm going to put this toward the back, and then I'm going to fill in toward the front. So I'm going to kind of place that toward the back. The next thing I'm going to use is this Dahlia.
Oh, isn't it pretty?
So I have a really fun Dahlia right here, and I'm going to kind of put that in front of the Heuchera, so I'm kind of tapering down.
And so this is going to be a filler.
Yeah, so after I have my thriller, then I'm going to go to fillers. And so this kind of fills this middle area here, and then the next step we will do what we call a spiller. And they kind of spill over the edge and hang down, and they're really fun. And so those 3 elements are what make a successful, beautiful container gardening. I'm also going to use some geraniums. So this is just a zonal geranium, and I'm going to use this hot pink color.
Okay, so the color is something I really want to talk about here. You have kind of picked a theme with your color.
Mhm.
So we've got this pink in the leaves, we've got this lighter pink with the dark edges, and then again we've got this bright pink. So I'm seeing a theme, so it kind of gives you some continuity.
Yeah.
And that is really important in your containers. And then look at how full this is already. I mean, it's quite full. One of the biggest mistakes I see with people with their containers is that they don't fill their containers full enough. And we just run out of plants, and it's like, oh, well, I don't want to go spend more money, and I don't want to go back to the nursery, because that's just the rest of my day is gone. So making sure that I pick out enough plants is important, and I usually overbuy.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
And I'm just stuffing weird things together at the very end.
Yeah, so you want to make sure it's nice and full. So again, this would be your filler section. I'm going to also use a coleus. Now, coleus are really cool. Now, make sure that when you buy coleus, there's coleus that are for shade and for sun.
Okay.
This one is a shade one, but I love the color, and on my porch I have sun and part shade, so I'm going to use it anyway and take my luck. But this is kind of borderline. It'll get tall-ish, so it can be used as a filler or a spiller. So I'm going to put it right here on the edge, and kind of I'm going to directional point it so that it can kind of grow out this way. This is called Lantana, and look at that fun color.
It's one
just
of my most favorite plants.
Yeah, I love it too. So Lantana is really fun, and I love this one. This one's called, I don't have my glasses on, but Marta has young eyes.
Bandana Cherry Sunrise, and I'm going to show
Cherry
that
Sunrise,
color.
and it's just really fun. We're going to use this as a spiller, and so I'm going to kind of direction that so it will grow and spill down.
And I love the color of this.
Yeah, and this is called a licorice plant, and I love this as well. And I'm going to put that right in the front.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah,
Usually you
so
see
pretty.
like creeping Jenny or sweet
Yeah.
potato vine.
And those are great too. But I love this just because it's a fun. It's different, and I like it because what you're trying to do is create a lot of different textures, and it gives me a different color than I have in the rest of the pot. So
Chartreusey color.
yeah.
I love that chartreuse
and it's
color.
got a soft foliage on it. So again, I'm going to kind of direction it so it spills down. But so you can see that I've got everything, all the elements that I want, and it's all going to fit. So then I would just take them out of the containers, put them in the ground, or put them in the pot, and then as I fill this in, I may need to backfill with more soil. So I've got more soil that I can tuck in the spaces after everything's planted, and then I might want to come back in and put a little bit more fertilizer in it as well. And you can, again, the fertilizer that we put in there was a pelleted slow release fertilizer, but I can also once a week use
like a
liquid fertilizer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you would just pick up like they make these little kits that hook onto your hose,
Yep.
and you add so much fertilizer, and there's a little setting, and you just go through and you water your pots. So that's really important to get continual bloom.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are some plants that are really heavy feeders, like the geraniums are going to be a little heavier, petunias, anything that puts out a big bloom is going to need a little more fertilizer, especially if you want it to rebloom over and over and over again. That's really important. So
yeah, and let's talk about watering. So watering is really important. So depending on where your pots are, you'll want to make sure that you're checking your soil. And so this is the best way to check.
This is the best tool right here.
So you stick your finger in and see if it's wet or if it's dry. And normally, I find that I have to water my pots at least once a day. When it's really hot in the summer, sometimes twice a day. I water them before I leave for work, and again after I get home from work. And so you just have to check and see, depending on the temperature. But just check it with your finger and see if you need to, water them twice a day or whatever the temperature dictates.
Right. And there are some great things that you can do to help get some water into your plants so you don't have to worry about them quite so much. I mean, if you could put in a little drip system, you can. Or I have this container down here. I don't know if Marta will be able to see it up there. I can tip it. So I've got this, there's like this little container that I've planted down in the center of this herb pot. This is called an oya, and you fill it with water, and it's terracotta, so terracotta is porous. And as the water sits in there, it just kind of leaches out and gives you a little bit of leeway, and it's not foolproof. So you have to definitely still check it, but it will give you that little bit of leeway.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, and they come with cute tops, so you can kind of.
It adds another element to your
And then
pot.
this is kind of like your oil dipstick. So you can pull it out and see where your water is. So yeah, that works really well. And I've been using that in my herb pot, and I love that.
So Shauna gave us a thumbs up. Hi, Shauna.
Hi, Shauna.
Hi, Shauna.
If you're enjoying this video, please like it, share it with your friends, invite them to come see. We're about to plant our shade
So let's plant
planter.
this shade container. So I love this shape of a container. It's really, I think these ones are really easy to plant because it's like a basic shape It's not weird and flat like this one. This one's always a little bit more challenging to plant. And this, you've got this height right here. And so something that I tell people is with the height on your thriller, you don't want it to be more than 1 to 2 times taller than the height of your container. So Susie's done a really amazing job because she's awesome on getting the proportions just right with the container. This one where it's so wide and flat is going to be a little bit different. And I'm not going to have this really tall thriller. I'm going to instead mound this. And so it's going to be
just look goofy.
Yeah,
it will look really tall.
It will look really goofy because my proportions will be all off. So on this container, you can see I've got some things already in here. So I have planted some perennials in this container. I've got a hosta, I've got some ivy back here, I've got some thyme up front, and this sits on my porch. The front side gets a little bit more sun than the back side, but this is a shade container for sure. These can overwinter in the containers. I just leave this on the porch. The plants go dormant, and they do just fine. I will throw a scoop of snow up on the container every now and then, especially for the ivy, because it keeps its leaves all year long.
So how old is that hosta?
This hosta has been in here for 3 years, and every year I just plant around it. And I will change this container, so I'll plant it in the spring, and then I'll take everything out. I'll plant it for summer, and then if I'm feeling really crazy, I'll take everything out and plant it again for fall. So this is kind of the focal point of my front porch, so people see this over and over again. So I want it to kind of change with the seasons. So with that in mind,
I'm going to come up a little so people can see in the pot a little bit.
You can see. I'm going to add a little bit of soil to this because with this container, I want it to be mounding just a little bit in the middle, just to give me a little more height. Okay, so that's probably good. I'm always dirty. Everybody kind of has this joke in the office about how fast I can get dirty when I get to work. So
that's why we're doing this outside.
That's why we're doing this outside. You can sweep up really easily. So I'm going to add a little bit of fertilizer because this has not been fertilized yet this year. And because I have perennials in here, I don't change out the soil so much. I amend the soil. I'm constantly adding fertilizer to it, making sure that these plants have what they need. So this hosta is kind of a focal point in the back of the container.
So would you call that the thriller?
It is one of the thrillers, and it's got these chartreusey leaves.
Because when you look
really
at the
bright.
height of the pot and the height of the hosta,
it's just about...
It's really well balanced.
And it will put out spikes later in the summer. It will put out spikes with spring flowers on it. And so that does become a thriller for this container. I like to plant asymmetrical because I'm weird.
No, they're fun.
No, they're really fun. It kind of makes people stop and think for a minute. So I try not to plant anything very symmetrical. So I've got something here that this was a new one for me. This is Blazing Rose Bloodleaf Irisine. So this was a new one for shade that I found this year that I thought, why not try it?
That's an annual.
So this is an annual, and I'm going to tuck it up in here with the perennials, and you can see I've got larger leaves like how I do on the hosta, but they're a different color. So it's going to give me some drama right there. And then some of my other plants, I've got this Chenille Plant, which if you can see, this is really pretty. So this, I'm just going to kind of start working my way around. So this is going to have a lot more spillers because the plant is really round, and I've got a lot of edge space out here where I'm going to have things spilling over. My thrillers, or not my thrillers, my fillers, I've got shade coleus. So Susie talked about planting sun coleus. I've got some shade coleus.
That's one of my favorite plants.
It is really pretty. So now I've picked out this one because I'm going to pick up the color of this leaf, and then I'm also going to pick up the color of the hosta again.
And the pink on the chenille plant.
Right. So I've tried to do the same kind of thing that Susie did, where I've got kind of a color theme going on here. So I'm going to plant this. This is going to get big leaves. I can keep the size down by pinching it a little bit. If they start to get a little tall, I can take that height back just a bit. And this container is big. It's hard to...
And coleus is one that you can propagate really easily.
You can. You can take cuttings from it and you can make lots of babies.
That's my favorite thing.
Okay, I've got one more coleus.
Oh, wow.
And this one is, you know, a really different shape on the leaf. The leaves are ruffled, and I've got a really bright kind of of maroon color going on here. It's going to add to that theme again. So I just dig down in here. Now, if I wanted to take the hosta out of this container, I could. I could plant it in my yard very easily. And so you can do that, and I do that a lot. I'll put perennials in my containers, especially in the spring. And then I'll take them out and I'll plant them in my yard later, because I don't want to waste all that money, and I feel really bad throwing away the plants. Let's see.
Because some can overwinter, but
They
it's harder
can.
for them to overwinter in a pot, right?
Yes, they can. I've got this beautiful Begonia Tuberosa that is going to hang, and it has these kind of really beautiful heart-shaped flowers. It's a little more orangey red, but it still kind of goes with our theme. And when you do the shade containers, I have a friendly slug. When you do the shade containers, you'll find that you deal with a lot more, there's not as much bloom, it's a little more foliage driven. So we end up trying to get different textures on that foliage, try to make a statement that way.
That's why I like coleus, because there's so many different colors of foliage
There are. It really gives you some variety. So we've got that in there. I've also got a fuchsia, and I picked a very light pink fuchsia to kind of give it some drama right up front.
You know what I'm loving is the stem color on
I know,
that.
isn't it pretty how it's pink? It's just absolutely beautiful. So that's going to be one of my spillers. I'm going to plop that right up there. And then I've got this wire vine. This is usually a house plant, but it's going to be nice and warm, not today, but another day. Sorry, we just had a school bus drive by. And I'm going to use this for texture and for spilling on this edge over here. So I've kind of got this.
So in our climate, that would just be an
It would be an annual
plant.
outside, but I can dig this up if it's nice and healthy at the end of the season, which it should be, because I'm going to take really good care of this container, because these are expensive to do. And I can dig it up and I can repot it and use it as a house plant. So, and then I've got, I am going to tuck some of these in. So I plant a little bit different sometimes. Sometimes I'll get my majority of my stuff in, and then there will be little gaps sometimes. And maybe I don't want the little gaps.
You need some fillers.
I need a few more fillers, so I picked up some begonias with a dark leaf that have kind of a bright white bloom on it to give me just a little bit of pop. Because we're in the shade and we need that pop. So I'm just gonna tuck these in here, and these are gonna be short, and they're gonna just kind of spread and fill in just a bit and give me just a little more oomph in my container. Here.
And again, you're getting, I love in both of these spots just the dimension that you get from the foliage.
Yeah. So I mean, you can see how we kind of mound and come down and over. Turns out really pretty. And just like that, I'm going to water this in. And if I need to add any soil, which I don't think I need to do, I can add a little more soil here at the end if I've got some gaps. And then I'm going to water this really well. I'm going to watch the water. We're nice and cool right now, so probably won't have to water it for a few days. But same with Susie. She'll get hers, and then she'll water it. She probably won't have to water it for a few days. But then every morning I make a habit, and this is really important. I make a habit of coming out, checking my containers. I'll deadhead anything, any spent blooms, anything that looks terrible. I kind of fluff everything up and run my fingers through everything. I'm kind of funny that way. I just have to.
You're just grooming it.
I'm grooming it. That sounds not good.
Like hair, like your pet.
It's good. It's good.
Like my hair. So yeah, and I'll take off any of those spent blooms. I'll check and see if I'm kind of coming back on my bloom, and maybe I need another fertilization to get things going again, and just kind of check on everybody and make sure that they're good. But I take really good care of my containers, and they last all summer, and they stay beautiful if you take care of them. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that you want to take care of them because they're expensive.
They are.
One thing I've noticed, you go to nurseries or garden stores, and they have beautiful pots, and they are pricey.
They are.
So, is it more cost effective to plant them yourself?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I mean, the good
It's
thing
fun.
is you can choose what you want.
Right.
from it.
So I mean, if you want colors like this, then you are are in control of those colors, which is really kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to pick up some funky, weird plants and do a container that just kind of matches your personality, go for it. That's what I love to do. I have a weird one on my front porch that is just funky. And I do that one as weird as possible every year just because I want to see how much fun I can have in that container. And it's not cheap, but it is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can definitely pick them up at the nurseries. You can usually get really good quality ones at our local nurseries. So if that's the way you want to do it, great. Just take good care of them all summer and they'll still be beautiful for you. Other questions?
We haven't had any questions come in.
That's okay. Hopefully they enjoyed.
Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed our container putting together party that we're having.
If you do have any questions, we do have a new Facebook group, Utah's Gardening Experts. You can join us over there. Great community of gardeners. We love sharing our garden spaces and talking about gardening.
Yeah. We would love to share that page with you.
Yeah.
So, and it's a great way for you to get in contact if you have questions with any of us.
Yeah.
So a bunch of us are on there from USU. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching. We so appreciate you being here, and get together with your sisters, your moms, your friends, and have a planting party. It's so much fun. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks for joining.
Bye. Happy gardening.